Yesterday game was horrendous, bro. I mean, it was bad. I mean, this one might be one for the ages, bro. I can't even lie. The referees just exposed their hand so bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the cause was. They didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what went down, bro. I mean, they got their issue off in a major way, bro. I mean, there was countless of times I could literally look at the screen and know that was a foul.
In the world of professional sports, the enemy is supposed to wear the other team's jersey. But what if the greatest threat to the WNBA's new messiah wasn't a rival player, but the very officials sworn to uphold the game's integrity? The arrival of Caitlin Clark was meant to be the league's salvation, a cultural phenomenon that would finally elevate women's basketball to the mainstream. And it worked. Viewership is exploding. Jerseys are flying off the shelves, and arenas are packed with new fans who have never watched a WNBA game before. But this blinding new spotlight has done something else. It's pulled back the curtain on a league in chaos, exposing an ugly truth hiding in plain sight. The officiating is not just bad, it's become so bizarrely and consistently one-sided that it no longer feels like incompetence. It feels like a deliberate campaign of sabotage, and the receipts are starting to look so damning they could indict the entire operation.
So lads, today the referees gave the report on the situation, and it's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim. Like, it was a pretty grim overall it was a pretty grim overall.
Watching the WNBA and seeing how things are run, seeing how things are done, and after you've seen what it looks like to get it right, and you come in and see something looking really wrong, you're going to call it out. It is what it is. You're going to be critical of players if they do something shady or classless. You're going to call that out.
I wanted to share with you guys an article that I found that honestly gives us so much insight into the WNBA referees, how they are hired, how much they make. And there's one section that really stood out to me, and they break down essentially why they are making the calls that they make. And they also talk about the influx of new fans flooding to the WNBA. They talk about Caitlin Clark a little bit. This article to me was really telling. It actually came out in January, but it was published by SB Nation, and it's entitled How WNBA Referees Are Scouted, Trained, and Held Accountable.
The hype surrounding Caitlin Clark's entry into the WNBA was unlike anything the sport had ever seen. She was more than a player. She was a movement, carrying the hopes of a league on her shoulders. But the dream of her lifting the WNBA quickly collided with a harsh and baffling reality. From the moment she stepped on a professional court, it became clear she was playing a different game than everyone else, governed by a secret, unwritten set of rules. This wasn't the standard rookie hazing or a physical welcome to the league moment that every young star endures. This was a consistent game after game pattern of strange and targeted officiating that felt personal. Off-ball shoves, illegal screens, and late hits that would send anyone else to the floor were deemed good defense or simply ignored. Meanwhile, she was whistled for the slightest bit of contact, often for simply reacting to the very physicality being thrown at her. The psychological toll is immense. Imagine knowing that every single night you have to defeat not just the 5 players in front of you, but the 3 officials who hold the power to control the game's flow and outcome. Fans who came to witness greatness were instead watching a slow-motion takedown, orchestrated not by opponents, but by the Zebras with whistles who seemed determined to neutralize her, one phantom call at a time.
I mean, you would think with what they say coming into the season, Kathy was made it her business to let them know that, referees is going to be getting assessed for this next season and make sure they're making the right, proper calls. Man, at this point, we need NBA refs all the time, bro. I don't want these YMCA, junior league, high school ass referees, bro. We need real life refs because as of right now, they're costing the Indiana Fever major games that they definitely need to win.
You remember how last year started? You remember the lopsided officiating that we got last year? The All-Star break comes around, the Olympic break rolls around, and then what did we hear from Lynn Dunn? Lynn Dunn goes on the Dan Dockage show, and she calls out the officiating. She calls out the refereeing. She calls out the WNBA. The lopsidedness that is being shown not in favor of the Indiana Fever. The clear biases when it comes to foul calls, the clear biases when it comes to not calling foul calls. Last year, it took us halfway through.
If this sounds like an exaggeration, the statistics paint a picture of undeniable bias that is impossible to defend. In professional basketball, free throws are the currency of fairness, a direct reflection of which team is playing more aggressively and drawing contact. Yet, the Indiana Fever have been on the losing end of a staggering free throw discrepancy. At one point, the team had a differential of -31 free throws compared to their opponents over a short stretch of games. This number is not just an anomaly, it's a statistical indictment that suggests the game is fundamentally tilted. For a player like Clark, who constantly attacks the paint and is known for her creative drives, the lack of calls is even more suspicious. It's as if there are two different rulebooks being enforced on the same court, one for the Indiana Fever, where every defensive move is scrutinized, and one for their opponents, who are given a green light to play with a level of physicality that borders on assault. It's a clown show of inconsistency, and it makes it nearly impossible for a team to compete on a level playing field. The numbers don't just suggest a problem, they scream that the game's integrity is compromised.
Things a little bit holistically. I think Caitlin Clark is a really hard player to officiate, much like Diana Taurasi was throughout the course of her career, for a couple of reasons. Caitlin Clark regularly gets picked up in the full court. She also gets blitzed more over the course of her career than any player in WNBA history or in that period of time. And she also creates some contact herself on the offensive end of the floor. She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA, and all of them said it needs.
Here, it took us 4 games for Stephanie White to say, I've had enough. It's taken 4 games for Stephanie White to say, you know what? I've had absolute enough. Game 1, okay. Game 2, okay. Game 3, all right. But today was the last straw when it came for Stephanie White. The New York Liberty get to the free throw line 32 times. The Indiana Fever this season have a discrepancy -31 when it comes to free throws. That doesn't seem right.
But then came the moment that ripped the mask off entirely. The hit seen around the world, an act so blatant it couldn't be explained away. In a game against the Connecticut Sun, with millions watching on national television, J.C. Sheldon delivered a blow to Caitlin Clark that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball. It wasn't a hard foul in the heat of the moment. It was a deliberate, unnecessary, cheap shot to the face, away from the play after the whistle. The replay was horrifyingly clear, sparking instant outrage across social media. It was an act that in any other professional sports league would have resulted in an immediate ejection and a hefty suspension. The entire arena fell into a stunned silence, then erupted in a chorus of boos as the referees huddled to review the play. Everyone waited for the obvious call. Instead, they handed down a flagrant 1 foul. The decision was so stunningly wrong, it felt like a declaration of war on fairness. The league's own official report on the incident described the foul using 3 key phrases: unnecessary, a wind-up and impact, and contact to the face. By the WNBA's own rulebook, that is the literal textbook definition of a flagrant 2 foul, which mandates an automatic ejection. In that moment, the referees didn't just botch a call. They read out the evidence for a crime and then delivered a slap on the wrist, sending a chilling message across the league. You can target our biggest star, and we will let you get away with it.
By sharing that the officiating in the WNBA became as hot button of an issue as any. Heated debates surrounding the league's physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls. Now, they also brought up Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. We actually made a whole video about that as well because there were some suspect calls at the end of that game, and a lot of people felt like the WNBA Finals were actually rigged.
This is what the referee said happened. Why was J.C. Sheldon's foul upgrade to flagrant 1? In the judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. The contact to Clark's face. Furthermore, there was a wind-up and impact, and the contact to face carries potential for injury. How did you come to the conclusion that that is a flagrant 1? How did you come up to the conclusion that it was unnecessary? There was a wind-up, and it was to the face. The 3 of them that is a flagrant 2. By definition, you have described a flagrant 2.
As this on-court injustice spiraled out of control, a new drama began unfolding on the Indiana Fever's sideline. Coach Stephanie White transformed from a strategist into a sideline warrior, fighting a desperate public battle against the officials. With every blown call, her face became a canvas of disbelief, cycling through shock, anger, and finally explosive fury that made her look like a human thermometer of injustice. She was no longer just coaching a team, she was protecting them from a system that seemed rigged against them. Her constant pacing, her hands thrown up in exasperation, and her incredulous stares directly at the officials became a live demonstration of what it feels like to be gaslit in real time. Her meltdown wasn't just a loss of composure, it was a validation of every fan's outrage. When a veteran coach who has seen it all is pushed to the absolute brink, it confirms that what's happening isn't normal. She had watched her star player get battered and her team sabotaged for too long. Her fury was the cry of someone who had seen enough, and her sideline protest became the unofficial voice of a fan base that felt completely powerless.
The WNBA refs are the worst. They really are the worst.
We gotta unpaint these narratives. They all have heart. All the mannerisms in basketball are the same. This is gonna be the same. Doesn't matter your color, your race, or your religion. That means I shot in your face. This means I'm clapping, I'm excited. How do you make basketball mannerisms about race? Make it make sense. Sometimes we might even push the ref. I'm in the heat of the moment. I'm not a bad person.
Wait, hold up, wait. You be pushing refs, Angel?
Well, I ain't never pushed them, but I've gotten in their face. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, you know.
Even when you watch the MNBA, I would pray for, and Scott Foster sucks, but I would pray for a Scott Foster in the WNBA. Some of these women's refs, I don't know if you feel this way, Angel, but they have a...
I've said it before and I will say it again, the WNBA as an organization is insufferable, and you would be hard-pressed to find another organization that is as committed to self-imploding as the WNBA.
There is no place in basketball for somebody to be poked in the eye, and like then they're saying Caitlin Clark is flopping. In what world is she flopping? Oh, she flailed and she fell over. For crying out loud, that girl, JC Sheldon, should have been kicked out of the game. She should have received a flagrant 2. There's no reason why you need to poke somebody. Listen, I get it. She's playing her hard. She's guarding her. It's basketball. Aside from the viewership and the recordship and the media, it's just a basketball game. I totally get that. There's no place in basketball for like that. These WNBA refs need to fix.
This level of sustained, questionable officiating forces a darker, more disturbing question. Is this just gross incompetence, or is it something more sinister? Are the WNBA's referees simply out of their depth, unable to handle the increased speed and scrutiny that comes with the Caitlin Clark effect? Or is there a directive at play? It's a question that leads to uncomfortable, conspiracy-laced theories that are becoming harder to dismiss. Some speculate that an old guard of veteran players and league insiders are resentful of Clark's instant superstardom and are using the officials as loyal foot soldiers to put her in her place. It's starting to feel like there's an unwritten rule book in the WNBA, one that says Caitlin Clark must be humbled at all costs. They officiate her not as a rookie, but as if she's a notorious veteran with a reputation for flopping, penalizing her for mannerisms and reactions that are standard across all of basketball. The pattern is too consistent to be random. It feels orchestrated, a mission to slow her down under the guise of officiating. This isn't just about bad calls, it's psychological warfare designed to drain the joy from a player who is carrying a franchise on her back.
Lost control of the game.
I said you lost control of the game, and here's what happened is those are refs around allowed that type of play to happen. That just opens up the rest of the game to say, do you see what I got away with? I'm going to be able to get away with other things too. And that's exactly what I said. That's a dangerous game. That is a unsafe game for players to be a part of, because it allows for the other team to make some really nasty, maybe just
the increased attention this year. There's also been increased scrutiny about the quality of refereeing. Curious if there has been any conversation about whether it's referee pay, referee training, anything to ensure that is as good as it can be.
Obviously, not every, they're humans. Looking at technology, basketball is a little more complex than tennis, for instance, around technology of officiating. So we're looking at a variety of different dimensions. I know it's a passionate issue. Every fan group, I love when I go into market and every fan group, I I meet with. They usually wait and ask it as the last question of the night, but they do ask about officiating, which I appreciate.
In the face of the league's biggest crisis in modern history, one person who should be at the forefront is conspicuously maddeningly absent: Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. While fans erupt, coaches lose their minds, and the league's credibility is torched online in viral clips seen by millions. The commissioner's office has been a vacuum of leadership. There have been no decisive statements, no public accountability for the referees, and no clear action to address the crisis. She is the captain of a ship sailing directly into a hurricane, and she appears to be locked in her cabin with no Wi-Fi. In sports, a commissioner's silence is a statement in itself. By failing to publicly condemn the officiating and protect her league's biggest asset, she is sending a message of tacit approval. Her job is to grow the league, protect the players, and uphold the integrity of the sport. She is failing on all 3 counts. It's a catastrophic failure of leadership, creating a lawless environment where referees act with impunity. Her inaction has turned a problem into a full-blown disaster, making the WNBA look like a minor league operation at the very moment the world decided to take it seriously. She needs to be fired, preferably yesterday. The WNBA was gifted a once-in-a-generation talent, a player with the charisma and skill to redefine the sport for millions. Caitlin Clark delivered on her end of the bargain. The league, however, is failing spectacularly to hold up theirs. As new fans tune in, they're seeing more than just dazzling three-pointers and brilliant passes. They're getting a front-row seat to a dysfunctional league that seems intent on self-destructing. The story is no longer just about a rising star, it's about biased officiating, an enraged coach fighting a losing battle, and the ghost of a commissioner who is nowhere to be found. The league stands at a precipice. It can intervene, clean house, and restore some semblance of integrity to the game, or it can continue to allow this farce to play out on national television. But they must remember, this new massive audience they've attracted knows what real basketball looks like, and they also know what sabotage looks like. The question is no longer if they will fix this mess, but how much of their newfound fame and credibility they are willing to burn before they finally do something about it.